I took the call to go to the United Theological College because it was a seminary, and it was an opportunity for me to use the experience, pastoral experience and graduate studies training to teach and form pastors, and that really has been what mission has meant for me, the opportunity to do that.
For me, it was a total life change. I had been teaching full-time, teaching English and German, and went to a completely new place, completely new context. It was a wonderful adventure, but it also was strengthening of my faith in ways I never imagined, because I began to busy myself with theological activity all the time. I began teaching at the college, teaching English and communication skills. And
what was a big surprise and a pleasant surprise is how diverse the teaching opportunities were. It's an ecumenical seminary, so we had students from all the mainline denominations, Methodist and Moravian and Anglican and Baptist and so forth, as well as Lutherans. So that was diverse already, and for me, coming out of a fairly strict Lutheran background, that was liberating and a good experience to try to teach students who are coming from different kinds of perspectives. But also the diversity in terms of the region. We have Lutheran churches in Haiti and Guyana and Suriname, so I had the opportunity to travel to all those churches and visit those countries and work with the church leaders and the people in the churches and do Bible studies and other kinds of lectures. So that, for me, mission was that diversity of teaching experience that I had was a wonderful thing.
it also was an opportunity for spiritual growth. I was allowed eventually to develop a course called Reading and Writing for Theology, which was a wonderful experience for me, and I searched around for Caribbean materials to use, and as I did that, I got a greater knowledge of the culture.
The ordinations of students always were a high point, and I attended many other churches. One I remember particularly was in Haiti in 2009. We had a student, Livingston Levanus, who's now president of the Lutheran Church in Haiti. And in 2009, I traveled to Port-au-Prince to take part in the ordination, and it was held in the Episcopal Cathedral in Port-au-Prince, a magnificent building that I had known nothing about before, with great biblical murals by local artists. It was a grand service, and it really brought so many things together of what I had done. But then in retrospect, almost exactly 1 year after that, the earthquake hit, and that Episcopal Cathedral was totally destroyed, along with most of the murals. So that moment particularly sticks in my mind, both for the high point it was in terms of the ordination, as well as the pathos of the earthquake and so much of what was lost, but Livingston and his work continue. So that has meant a lot to me.
I thought about the Haitian students that I taught and how I learned so much about Haiti at the time, but I had one particular student who didn't feel that he blended very well into the context in Jamaica. His skin was lighter than most people's, and he had freckles and reddish hair. And he chose a poem by Gerard Manley Hopkins to memorize called Dappled Things, and the beauty of dappled things. And one day he came to me and was just talking to me about how he didn't feel as if he fit in. And I had a chance at that moment to speak the gospel to him. And all I said to him was, "Do you realize how much God loves you?"
On one of our trips to Guyana to visit the church, and one of the pastors took us across the Demerara River to her home on Sand Hill. It was reachable only by boat. So we got in the small speedboat that her brother was operating, and we got into the boat, just the three of us, Mary and I and the boat operator. And we got to the middle of this wide river, and the storm came down the river and really let loose thunder and lightning all around us in drenching rain. We had a small umbrella, but it was absolutely no good. So by the time we actually got over to the other side to Sand Hill, we were totally drenched, shoes squishing and clothes just had to be wrung out. So the people on the other side were very gracious. They understood what had happened to us, so they said, well, let us get you some dry clothes, because we were going to visit over there for 3 hours or so. So they rummaged around and found some dry clothes, but of course I'm a lot taller than any of those people. So for the rest of the afternoon I walked around in supposedly long pants that came up just to below my knees, and shirts that were way too short. We have some wonderful pictures of what it looked like.
One particular time, I made an illegal right turn, and I saw people waving at me, and I thought, oh, how nice, people know me. And they weren't waving at me for that reason. It was illegal to make that turn. And sure enough, as I turned the corner, I saw the policeman on his motorcycle that these people were waving at me, who were waving at me, saw. And he came up to the car, said, get out of the car. So I did, and he said, and give me a hug. And I said, well, I think I have to get out of the car, but I'm not so sure about the hug. So while I was getting out of the car, he took off his helmet and he took off his sunglasses, and he turned out to be one of the first students I had ever taught at the Vocational Training Center. And so sure enough, I gave him the hug, and he caught me up on his wife's business and the things that he was doing and all of that. And even though it was a little embarrassing to be hugging a policeman who was supposed to be giving me a ticket, it was a high point.